There's something special about staring down a wide open dirt trail. It's a reminder of simpler times, a call to adventure, and nothing captures that spirit quite like an old truck. These machines are more than just vehicles. They're time capsules on four wheels. Each dent, each scratch, tells a story of a hard-working past, of journeys taken and memories made. In an era dominated by sleek, modern technology, vintage trucks stand as a testament to timeless design and rugged reliability. They're not just built to last, they're built to endure, to thrive on the open road and off the beaten path. Behind the wheel, there's no rush, no urgency. It's just you, the truck, and the journey ahead. Every mile brings a new experience, every turn a new discovery. Whether it's climbing rugged mountain paths, cruising down desert dirt tracks, or navigating the quiet streets of a small town, vintage trucks bring a sense of romance to every journey. They remind us to slow down, to savor the ride, to appreciate the beauty of the world around us. Vintage truck ownership isn't for the faint of heart. Keeping these machines alive and adding new chapters to their story takes work. You'll undoubtedly battle through breakdowns and frustrations, but with some luck and determination, you'll experience triumphs and unforgettable moments. Each repair is a victory, each mile logged a testament to your dedication. Owning a vintage truck is a labor of love, rewarding you with a profound sense of accomplishment and a unique connection to history. Embrace the challenges, relish the victories, and know that with every turn of the key, you're keeping a legacy alive. The open road awaits, filled with adventures and new memories. Let's keep these stories rolling, one drive at a time.
Well, I'm super excited to be out here today with fellow Troopy owner, fellow content creator, all the way from Canada, Johannes. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our Troopies. It sometimes feels like the decision to drive a Troopy and to do what we're doing means we're playing life on hard mode, or maybe we're gluttons for punishment. But at the same time, there is something about these trucks that just makes you love them so much. And I wanted to hear what that's like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, my name's Johannes. Like Ben said, I'm from Canada and I run a small YouTube channel. And I also have a Troopy here from Australia. I imported it a couple years ago. It's been about 3 years, and it's been an interesting journey so far, for sure. Lots of ups, lots of positives, lots of not so good things, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff today. But yeah, we really wanted to talk about what it's like to own one of these things and why exactly we do it, right?
Totally.
And I think for me it started with this dream of some sort of big trip.
Yeah.
And then you see what other people are doing and what kind of trips they're doing, and you start getting inspired, right? I've always been into cars since, high school, middle school. So I kind of came out of the car game, as if you wanted to see.
Yeah.
And then I saw all these people traveling with their vehicles, right? And then I started crafting the idea of my own big trip, like you have, right?
Yeah, I think we're very similar in that regard, where it was almost the use case first, the vehicle second.
Exactly. Yeah. And then inevitably you start thinking to yourself, well, what is the perfect vehicle for this kind of stuff, right? Because that's what I want, right?
Totally.
I want the best to go out there and get to where I want to go and have the experiences I want to experience. So then you go down this rabbit hole of just what am I going to do with, how am I going to get there, right?
Everything from a Unimog and a giant box.
Sprinter vans, Forerunners, you name it,
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, it runs the gamut.
So ultimately, I landed on the Troopy, right?
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because, like I said, I'm from Canada, and well, that's not the unfortunate part. But the unfortunate part is you can't get these in North America.
Right.
Canada, thankfully, has a law where you can import one as long as it's 15 years or older.
Which beats our 25-year rule.
Yeah, you guys in the U.S. are just dying over here
Totally.
because of the 25-year rule, right? So if I wanted one, I had to have a used one, right? And so then it gets into, well, where do I find one? How do I import one? And do I want something that's going to be 15 years old, right?
Right.
And if you're in the U.S., 25 years old.
Yeah.
But the more I looked, the more I realized that there is just no platform similar to the Troopy, right?
No, I think, as I did the same exact thing, right? Had a spreadsheet of every possible vehicle I could take on the Pan American Highway. What it came down to for me was a lot of factors. It's, the interior volume.
Yeah.
You just can't get the inside living space out of a four-door SUV, a 4Runner, a GX, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The landcruiser reliability obviously is something that everyone online talks about, and we'll talk about how that changes with,
Yeah.
with 20-year-old trucks, 30-year-old trucks.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said for that, and then the simplicity too is something I was really after.
Yeah, because exactly, simplicity and reliability are key factors when you are planning trips like these, because when you inevitably break down or you have an issue somewhere, because we'll all have an issue at some point, right? No matter what you drive.
Even in a brand new vehicle.
You
Yes.
want to be able to fix that. And we're out in Arizona today, kind of really off the beaten track, and if something goes wrong out here, I would like to be able to poke my head under the hood, under the
Yes.
bonnet, and understand that's a radiator, that's a fuel pump, that's my whatever, right? It's being able to identify and recognize parts, and unfortunately, auto manufacturers have really gone away from that these
Yeah.
days with brand new vehicles. I look at the engine of a brand new car these days, and I can't
It's
figure out what I'm looking at.
hard to identify anything, right? Because there's been such a push to cram capabilities in and luxuries in,
Right.
and it eats up space and all of those types of things.
Exactly. But see, new cars drive very nicely. They're so quiet and they're so smooth, which is the opposite of what we have behind us here. But I wanted to also make the point of, so you want simplicity and reliability, but you also want a platform that's going to be able to be serviced in other countries, right?
Yes, totally.
Which, again, in North America, we struggle here because it's like one of the countries that doesn't readily service the troop carriers, right?
Yes.
So it is very nice having a Troopy here in North America, but when it is time for maintenance and repairs, it can be tough.
You're really left to your own devices, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
doing the research, you're finding the parts.
Exactly.
And if it's above your level of mechanical capability wrenching on a vehicle, you're probably standing over someone's shoulder saying, oh no, the service manual says do this, this, this.
Exactly. But the idea is that once you get out of North America,
That changes.
It's
night
right?
and day when you get to Central and South America.
Right. So another big factor on why why we choose the Troopy, right? Because ultimately it is about taking that big trip, and it is about travel, and it is about adventure, and a lot of that doesn't necessarily, in my mind, take part in North America, right? We're from here, we live here, but ultimately we do want to explore other corners of the world, and that brings us back to the Troopy, because they are serviceable in other countries more readily.
As a grocery getter, daily driver in the U.S. or Canada, completely impractical as a vehicle choice.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something that you mentioned briefly earlier, the driving experience.
Yeah.
We had opportunities this weekend. We were just at Overland Expo West to hop in the new Toyota Trailhunter Edition Tacoma and 4Runner. We got a chance. You got to drive the Ineos Grenadier.
Yeah, I did.
And these brand new vehicles, right? The driving experience, it comes with its own set of pros, right? How quiet it is, how smooth it is, but that also comes at the price of sort of almost removing the driver a little bit from the driving experience,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. That is interesting that you bring that up, because this morning we were just talking about how much of a raw driving experience these vehicles are. And you hear a lot of people say that, like, oh, this old truck is just such a raw experience, right? And usually they put kind of a romantic spin on that, right? And I would agree with that it is very romantic for about the first 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then that immersive driving experience, you do get fatigued, right? Like when I'm fresh at the beginning of a day, I absolutely love driving this thing around town. It gives me no other feeling. Like there's nothing else like this, because it is just such a raw. You feel every vibration, you hear every noise, right? The windscreen is just tall, upright. You can see out everywhere. It is just a completely immersive experience. But then as the hours wear on, you get fatigued from the vibrations and the noise, and the steering wheel is a bit loose, so you got to really concentrate
Yes.
on your lane placement and everything. So while they are such romantic vehicles, and I would have to agree with that 100%, because that is such a big reason why I drive one, right? So I simply just like looking at it, and I like driving it, right?
Yes.
That is such a big thing. But it does, there are a few downsides to that, and it's not romantic the entire time, right?
Totally. I mean, every morning when I turn the engine over for the first time and you hear that growl, you smell the exhaust through the rose-colored glasses. I love that, right?
Yeah.
It is my favorite thing. But you're right. The driving experience in one of these Troopies requires 110% concentration.
Yes.
You're listening to everything. You're making those small adjustments to the steering wheel to stay in your lane. There's no cruise control. There's no adaptive cruise control, right? I sort of think that modern vehicles handle 90% of the act of driving, and the human in the driver's seat is really just that last 10%.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely not the case here, and it is fun, and I love it at times. And on the long haul days when I'm hitting pavement for 8-9 hours to get somewhere, it gets old.
Yeah, it does. And we just want to be honest, with what we're telling you guys here, because the Troopy has been a phenomenal platform, and what we talked about earlier about the volume of the space in the back compared to a 4-door SUV, it's just like none other, right? Especially if you put a pop top on and you can really stand up inside. There are, at least I haven't found one, there are no other comparisons.
No.
To keep that off-road capability, right? Because we can go anywhere a new 4Runner can go, or maybe not everywhere like a Jeep Rubicon can go,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we can go as many places. I've never not gotten somewhere because of the vehicle, right?
And I think, yeah, for me, that interior living space is the biggest consideration. I knew that doing long-term travel in a vehicle, I needed to be able to stand up inside. I needed to be comfortable inside in, moments of torrential downpours and, Central American, 3 days of nonstop rain.
Right.
And, this weekend we even got to see the Ineos Grenadier with the prototype alu cab pop top on it, the Solus.
It's good.
It's good. But the moment you poke your head in there, you realize that, yeah, it's a 4-door SUV platform with a pop top.
Right.
But still, the difference in volume, I don't know if you could equip it for long-term travel with the same level of comfort as you can with these.
Right. So we are comparing the Grenadier a lot because it's, in my opinion, it's the only vehicle that's come out in the last, I don't know how many tens of years, that can compete with a solid axle front end landcruiser, troop carrier with the pop top. It's a lot of auto manufacturers have been straying away more to the family comfort on road.
Totally.
And then all of a sudden Ineos comes out with this new platform. So we really I enjoy making the comparisons,
Yeah.
right? But you're right. It is absolutely still a 4-door SUV. And if you guys have ever seen a 4-door SUV with a pop top, it's better. It's better.
Yeah.
But it's just not the same, right? So if you really are after that interior living space, you're either going to have to get a Ford Econoline van,
Right.
and then hopefully 4-wheel drive swap it or do something.
Yeah.
I don't know if they come 4-wheel drive or not, but if you're after that room and it's like the Troop Carrier is the perfect balance of capability and interior living space, I would say,
I think so.
right?
To circle back to an earlier point about that on-road driving experience, I think one thing we haven't talked about is top speed.
Yeah.
You and I both have the stock powertrain under the hood. I've got the 3F, you've got the 1HZ, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they weren't built for modern American highways
For sure not.
at 75 miles per hour, at 110 kilometers an hour, wherever your max highway speed is. This is doing well under that.
Yeah. So we find ourselves right between 50 to 60 miles an hour,
Yeah.
which is, between 80 and 100 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. So you got to take it slow, right?
And that's on good flat ground.
It's on good flat
That
ground.
changes anytime I have to pull up a hill
Yeah.
and the 18-wheelers start passing me.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
again, right, that's the thing that makes it impractical as a daily driver in North America. But as soon as you get to the dirt tracks of Mexico, of Central and South America, our goal for long-term travel is to avoid highways as much as possible.
Right.
Easier said than done here in North America, but outside of the country, right? Very practical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now let's talk to anyone out there who is maybe in a position where we were a couple of years ago, thinking of their own long-term travel trip, trying to figure out what the right vehicle for them is. And let's give them a little bit of the reality of the Troop Carrier life.
Right.
I know for me, ownership has not been easy.
Yeah.
And part of that comes from the fact that they are imported from overseas and you don't get them with a Carfax, right? They're well used, likely well abused because people buy these to use them as intended.
Right.
And that sort of means you're on the hook for a full, almost refurbishment, if you will.
Yes. Yes. If you have to do a much better job than I did at
as well as I.
at really doing your homework before you pull the trigger on the vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's hard, man. Like I remember this one came from Facebook Marketplace actually in Australia. And I just remember surfing Facebook Marketplace, day after day, month after month, just looking for a vehicle. And not that I do not regret the purchase of this vehicle because it's taught me so much. But
Totally.
if I could do it again, I wouldn't settle because I did, I got impatient.
Yes.
I saw a clean looking Troop Carrier that had been, somewhat maintained and it was in my price range. And I was just, I'm done. I'm done looking.
Yes.
I just want to pull the trigger. I want the thing already, right?
Patience is a virtue
Oh,
in
gosh.
every aspect of Troop Carrier ownership, from before you own it and you're searching for it to after you own it. You're going to learn patience at every step of the way.
At every step of the way, yeah. Yeah, so for me, my biggest advice would be try to get the cleanest version of one that you can, not necessarily lowest miles, because they do run for, 500,000 kilometers.
Totally.
Even more than that, right? So, I wouldn't be scared of a higher mileage one, but, rust is a big thing. Maintenance, has it been maintained? Is there a good history on it that you can find, right? Because all of those things add up to what's going to show up at your front door.
Right.
Right.
And rust in places that you might not expect.
Yes.
Of course, you're going to check the frame rails. You might look up underneath at the floor pan, but the roof seal.
Yes.
Right. That's a big one. Around the windshield, in your door jambs, in your rear quarter panels.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of tricky places where rust can hide on these things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So on a similar note, I think that doing your homework before you get the Troopy, yes, super critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get the cleanest one you can find,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't necessarily mean the lowest miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it's in your driveway, give yourself the time, which again is something that I wish I would have done, and everyone who's followed me knows that it's exactly what I didn't do, which is how I ended up doing an engine swap in Alaska. But give yourself the time to really get well acquainted with it. I mean, it goes beyond a full fluid change. Everyone who gets a landcruiser is going to do their diffs, they're going to do their transmission and transfer case, they're going to do an oil change. But if you're getting one that's near that 500,000 kilometer mark, right, then is it maybe time to think about going deeper in the engine? Mm-hmm. Knuckle rebuilds were one of the first big projects I did. Brakes. There's going to be a lot of work to be done before your truck is ready to hit the road in sort of a long-term fashion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely a big one that you do need to take definitely a deeper dive on these things, especially because of how old they are. I mean, you know, metal doesn't necessarily expire, but rubber and plastic sure does.
Totally.
Right? And everything from your weather stripping to your oil seals has probably seen better days.
Right. Yeah, those little things like the weather stripping.
It just gets, you know, in Australia, and this one's from the UAE.
Yes.
The sun over there, I've never been personally, but I've just heard that the sun is just next level.
Yeah.
And when it beats on these things day after day after day for, you know, 20, 30 years, you are going to need to take a bit of a deeper dive. And, you know, if you want that reliability in the Land Cruiser, you know, if any truck that's 25 to 30 years old, it will need something if you're going to just be buying it used on the internet.
Totally.
Right? You're going to need to do something. Now, I feel like these trucks, as much work as they are and as much work as they need, they actually, compared to other trucks their age, I think they do quite well in comparison.
Yes.
Because if you look at a 30-year-old Ford or a 30-year-old, you know, I'm just trying to come up with other manufacturers here. But if you take an old Toyota like this and compare build quality and how they aged and what needs to be replaced, I still think Toyota comes out on top, right?
Totally. And so I guess on that note, right, you're really finding yourself in a position where you're either equipped or aspiring to be able to do that type of work in your driveway or at your home in the garage. But we're also fortunate in North America to have a number of incredible Land Cruiser shops, right? Yes. Specialists that know the 60, 70, 80 series like the back of their hands, whether they're imports or were sold here in North America.
Yes.
And so there are experts that are easy to get to regardless of what part of the country you're in, but that comes with money, right? And that's an additional investment. So don't think that because you found a budget, because you found a Troopy that hits your budget, the budget stops there, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Your budget needs to extend past the initial cost of the vehicle, because you will run into things that need to be addressed.
Totally.
Right?
Sometimes it's a $10 part. Sometimes it's a $1,000 part. Sometimes it's a $6,000 engine swap.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: knowing what you know now, right? You how long have you had your Troopy for?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. You've invested a lot of sweat equity into it, right?
Yeah.
You've wrenched on it quite a bit. You spent a lot of nights in it and logged a lot of miles both on dirt and highways. Would you change anything if you could go back 3 years ago and do it all over?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it again.
Okay.
But I wouldn't change what I've done now.
Yeah.
But that's simply because of how much knowledge and experience I've gained from this vehicle. It has taught me things about myself and about itself that I would have never got to learn those things if it wasn't for this thing, right? Yeah. It is a test on the patience sometimes, right?
Definitely.
And to be honest, it's probably one of the most frustrating vehicles I've ever owned. But as soon as you get it out here, it just shines like no other vehicle I've had, right?
Yeah.
So the frustrations in the driveway and the frustrations in the shop, I can confirm that it's worth it if you can push through and, you know, get the repairs done and then actually get it out here and use it and see what it's capable of. Oh man, there's like we keep saying, there is no other vehicle that's like this. You just have to be willing to be a bit patient. You have to be willing to, you know, get your hands dirty and you know, turn some wrenches.
Totally.
If that's your thing, right? But knowing what I know now, like I would get one. I touched on earlier that I wouldn't pull the trigger so fast now, right? I made the mistake of, and I'm trying to relay this on to you guys, is that I have made the mistakes, and I have done,
Yes.
walked through the
haven't
the
we
Troopy
both?
fire, right?
Yeah.
And I know you have too, right?
Yeah.
And so no, I would not put myself through the heartache and the stress again. But I'm only saying that because of the experience that I have, right? So
Totally.
It's a tough question, but yeah.
Yeah, I almost think of bringing home a Troopy kind of like bringing home a 8-week-old puppy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where, you're trying to potty train it, you're trying to teach it manners.
I love that. I love that.
But then the good outweighs the bad, right?
Yes.
There with a new puppy, and I know this when I got Bandit, right? There's a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of times where you're just at your wit's end because the puppy won't stop eating things it shouldn't or whatever. But then there are those moments where it's man's best friend and the good always outweighs the bad. And thinking about the trail we did to get here, right? That's one of those moments where I wouldn't trade anything to be doing a trail like that in my Troopy.
Yeah.
It comes with its frustrations, but at the end of it all, the good far outweighs the bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So not to say, a lot of people online do say that the Troopy is the perfect vehicle, and it's the god of vehicles, and it's the perfect thing ever.
Yeah.
And that might be true for, a newer one with maybe a V8 in it. Oh, doesn't that sound nice, right?
Doesn't that sound
I've never
nice?
driven one personally, but if you can get a little bit more comfort out of the highway,
Yeah.
if you can get that right, I would say
Yeah.
you're far beyond what I'm doing over here, right?
The reality is that the perfect vehicle is the one that you're actually going to get out and use.
Yes.
Right? For us, it happens to be Troopies.
Yeah.
But don't let a dream vehicle or the dream of having a different vehicle in your driveway stop you from just getting out there and doing what you want to
Right.
do.
At the end of the day, it really does not matter what
No.
you're behind the wheel of, as long as you're getting out.
Yeah.
and you're experiencing a little bit of nature, a little bit of culture.
Totally.
Drive whatever you want to drive.
Yeah.
Really, because we drive these to come here, right? I feel great, driving the Troopy to come here, but if I didn't have the Troopy, I'd be in something else trying to come out here anyway, right?
Totally. Yeah. The reality is every single day people are doing the Pan American in Toyota Corollas, in
Yes.
minivans,
Yeah.
right?
Do you need a Troopy? No.
No.
You do not need it, right? Do you want a Troopy? Well, that's a different question.
That's a different
right?
story. And if you're approaching it from a realistic perspective and understanding what goes into it, then more power to you.
Yes.
And DM either of us, find us on social media, and we'll help you through that journey as much as we can.
Absolutely, because we have both made the mistakes and had the experiences, and now we would like to just pass on some of that knowledge.
It's the best worst thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it totally is. But man, there is still something so romantic and so I can't exactly put my finger on it, but when I look at this truck and I look at these trucks, because they're very similar, I get that feeling,
Yeah.
And if you find anything that gives you that feeling, I would say that it's worth chasing that feeling.
Yeah, there's something really special about old trucks.
There is.
Well, Johannes, I can't tell you how much I appreciate being out here with you.
Yeah.
Where can people find you at?
I'm on Instagram at Johannes Steudel, and that's Johannes with a J. And I'm on YouTube at All Terrain Trails.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man.
Yep, thank you.